Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for tuning in to this special broadcast that we have going on. I'm Andy Birmingham, and I'm with Fiddle Inventory Management Software. And today, I have a real special guest, someone who comes from the supplier side and has over 40 years of experience in seasonings. And I'd like to welcome Jeff Higgins, the Chief Strategy Officer for Savor Seasonings. Jeff, how are you?
Hey, Andy, I'm doing well, thanks. I'm looking forward to a chance to answer some of your questions today.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for joining me and taking time. You know, Jeff, before we get started, I will never forget when several years ago, I met you for the first time in person. I traveled out to Ohio. And I think at that time, Jeff, you had just expanded your facility. And it was very nice, very good facility. Just again, very great impression on me. So for anyone, before we get into the questions, for anyone who's watching and they don't know about Savor Seasonings, can you just give us a quick high-level pitch of what Savor Seasonings is, what you guys do?
Yeah, so Savor Seasonings is a customized seasoning house. All of our products are made per customer specifications. There's no off-the-shelf products with a lot of companies in our industry, and we provide seasonings to industrial food manufacturers. The companies that are putting them on other products, mostly we're seen as a value-added ingredient, if you will.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, good. Well, I know you guys are doing great things. You're kind of like this hidden gem out there in Ohio, but hopefully you continue to grow and scale as you have been. So you guys are doing great stuff. All right. So I am, Jeff, going to put you in the hot seat here, and just want our audience to know that these are burning questions that any CPG brand that's young or a startup, as they go out and find a supplier and try to get through that clutter and that noise out there, to truly understand from the supplier's viewpoint, maybe some of those expectations and what they're thinking as you go knocking on their door and trying to find that supplier. So the first question I have, as I put you in the hot seat here, Jeff, is from a supplier standpoint, from your standpoint. You know, you have these CPG brands that are very excited, passionate about the particular product, but sometimes that passion can overshadow some of the realistic expectations that they should have with a supplier. Can you talk to that a little bit about maybe some of those expectations that a young scaling CPG brand should have as they source a supplier?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things to understand from our perspective is we get requests from these types of companies a lot. Everybody out there wants their own seasoning blend. And so we've, in our industry, it's very common to get startups coming to us for their unique blend of seasonings. And so that's important to remember. You are one of many. And it's a risk for companies like us because we see a lot of these and we see a lot of them fail. And we put a lot of time and effort into developing products for startups like this. And you have several that never pay out. So we do a fair amount of due diligence on our end to make sure that the companies we're working with have a good plan. So those are some of the things that we're looking for when we are approached by young CPGs wanting to break into the market.
Okay. And, that's interesting because you mentioned that you're looking into their plan and making sure that this is going to be, worth your time, just as it is for them to look at you and say, are you worth it to be my supplier? I think that some of these CPG brands feel like they get pushed to the side because they are smaller, right? Mm-hmm. They don't order, the volume's just not as big as some other more established companies. So what would a young CPG brand need to do, or what expectations should they have in trying to form a good partnership with a supplier like yourself?
So I think it's very important to be crystal clear on what your final objectives are. We oftentimes have young companies who come to us with incomplete ideas about what they want to do, or they just don't understand the realities of making a product non-GMO project. It's not as simple as slapping a label on it. And from a formulation standpoint, there's a lot that goes into creating your specialized seasoning. And a lot of that can be needs to be defined up front in order to make sure that that you're not spinning the wheels of your seasoning company, so to speak. And then one of the other things that's real important to understand is that there is a leap between going from maybe making it yourself, going to a co-packer type situation. There is a leap between needing 5 or 10 or 50 pounds of seasoning to where companies like ours, it's worthwhile for us to get involved. And typically that's around 500 to 1,000 pounds per order. Is where it all of a sudden starts to make a little bit more sense for a company like us.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's helpful. Again, I think that sometimes the CPG brands might feel a little bit slighted, put off to the side, right? But at the same time, they have to realize the risk that you're taking or any supplier that's taking on these younger CPG brands. So these CPG brands really need to be, like you said, I think that's a great tip, crystal clear, right, on their plan and expectations up front. Like they shouldn't tell you after the fact, this needs to be non-GMO, right? I mean, like that needs to be up front. You need to have that information and you need to know that, right?
So, yeah, it's important. And understanding if you're wanting to get into Whole Foods, what that means for the label and the product and where you're trying to market it. It's important. And you need to be realistic about that. Oftentimes people want something that tastes like, cherry pie, but they don't want, the cherry pie ingredients necessarily. Or they want a specific type of ingredient. So, it's important to realize that every new layer that you add on top of that, whether it's organic, whether it's vegan, whether it's non-GMO project, every one of those requirements means that there are certain ingredients that will not be able to be used on our end. And if we know that up front, it'll save a lot of headache on the back end.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome. Good. Yeah. Well, and I have one last burning question for you. Then you're off the hot seat, Jeff, so you'll be good. But as you have these CPG brands that come to you, and let's say it seems like it's going to be a good partnership and you've decided to move forward and you're putting that contract together, what are maybe some of the things that definitely, whether from a supplier standpoint or from the CPG standpoint, that they should make sure is included in the contract to have a healthy professional relationship?
Well, it's important to understand that your supplier has, I think, number one, first and foremost, the requisite food safety and regulatory programs in place. That probably is first and foremost. A lot of times you will have young CPGs who have their own recipe for making a seasoning that they've maybe been making themselves. And so it's important to understand how this new supplier, if you're going to go to a company to supply that for you, how they're going to help you to transition from the ingredients that maybe you could buy at Gordon Food Service to the ingredients that they'll have to use from a large ingredient supplier. So those are important things to understand. Lead times are very important, and understanding cost breaks, price breaks are usually very important to understand up front so that you can know where you need to get in order to scale the way you need to.
Yeah, no, those are great. And I think that sometimes, again, with a young brand who's coming in and maybe not as familiar and working with suppliers, those seem like common sense, but at the same time, sometimes that's not the common thing that they do, right? So you want to make sure you have those defined in that contract. Again, just setting yourself up for success with the supplier to be able to grow together, right?
Right, exactly. And, seasoning companies like Savor, we're anxious to partner with brands that we think are going to be the next great thing on the market. We're always looking for those entrepreneurs that are going to be the breakthrough products so that we can grow with them. So we are looking for winners. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like the seasoning companies want to work with smaller brands, but they're just being very particular because they have a big investment going into this. Typically, we will not charge for our product development services. We just plan that there's an ROI at the end of the day when the product takes off.
Got you. Yeah. Well, that's very helpful information, again, for any young CPG brand that comes knocking on any supplier's door, really. So, well, Jeff, I think you have successfully gotten off the hot seat. I appreciate your time and just your insights. Yeah, right. your insights. I think it's very helpful, again, for these young CPG brands that are scaling. I hope you've gotten some good meat out of this in this interview with Jeff. I appreciate you joining today, Jeff. Again, thank you for being with me. And if you are interested in Fiddle inventory management software, please check out our website. Also, you can check out Savor Seasonings website, see the great things that they're doing and supplying some pretty unique seasonings for the industry out there. So until next time, everyone, thank you.